Okay, question. Beverly Hills, the most beautiful women in the world, plastic surgery. What do these three things have in common? Huh? Me in less than a week.
I am the one and only.
Doc Hollywood is a 1991 comedy film directed by Michael Caton Jones that would find high acclaim, box office success, and would find itself regarded as an early 1990s classic. Michael J. Fox stars as Dr. Benjamin Stone, a cocky and arrogant young doctor finishing his residency in a downtown Washington, D.C. hospital. He is headed to Beverly Hills, California for a job interview with a noted plastic surgeon. His colleagues and friends think he is wasting his life doing plastic surgery instead of real medicine.
At the risk of sounding schmaltzy, I just want to tell you that you're a schmuck. I hope I never see you again.
Thanks, Tommy. I know how hard it was for you to say that.
Well, you're a good doctor, Ben. I just thought you were going to practice real medicine.
You think I'm making a mistake on a Halverston?
Nah. Cosmetic surgery, it's clean. You make tons of money. Nobody dies. What's wrong with that, right?
Right.
While driving across the country in his 1956 Porsche 356 Speedster, he winds up lost on rural highways in the town of Grady, South Carolina. Trying to avoid cows in the road, Ben accidentally crashes into a fence. The fence belongs to Judge Evans, played by Roberts Blossom, who decides to sentence Stone to 32 hours of community service as the chief physician at the town's clinic, Grady Memorial Hospital. There, Ben meets Nurse Packer, played by Edie Bird.
If you could just direct me to the physician on call tonight, I'll speak to him.
When to call me? You've been stabbed, shot, poisoned, separated from an appendage, knocked or beaten unconscious, run over by a tractor mower, or generally about to bleed to death. Otherwise, leave me alone. Signed, Dr. Aurelius Edsel Hogue, M.D.
I'm in the Twilight Zone.
Ben meets Mayor Nick Nicholson, played by David Ogden Stiers, who celebrates the fact that Grady is the squash capital of the South and excitedly tries to persuade the young doctor to stay in Grady on a permanent basis.
We are prepared to offer you a permanent position as medical practitioner supreme here in the greater Grady metropolitan area and squash capital of the South. And the salary is $27,000 per annum and plus housing.
27,000.
There, you see, Nick, I told you. Okay. 30,000.
Anyway, don't you already have a doctor?
Oh, yeah, with that Hogue. See, the problem with Hogue is...
He's old. Old and wholly unpleasant.
35,000? Well, yeah, but that takes a unanimous vote of the whole entire city council. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Unanimous? I abstain.
You always abstain. Look, I appreciate your problem, but I'm not the answer. Now, I got a big job interview on the West Coast. It's very important I get there in the next couple of days. Plastic surgery, you know? The truth is, well, they could probably pay me about 20 times what you could afford.
Well, now, you know, there's a lot of similarities between Grady and Los Angeles.
They're just beggars all.
Why'd you wait to make up your mind till after the squash festival, huh? All I'm saying, Ben Stone, is give Grady a chance. I bet you like her.
Yeah, well, nice meeting you all. Thanks.
While waiting for his vehicle to be repaired, Ben tends to the small town's patients.
Oh, this ain't nearly the biggest one I ever took. I had a hook in my thigh once. It must have been, I'd say, excuse me.
Fishing's a dangerous business.
Well, it can be.
And also flirts with ambulance driver and law student Vi Lula, played by Julie Warner.
I'm just on my way to Beverly Hills. Plastic surgery. Not that you need any.
Nice try. So is this a GQ look for young urban doctors?
Well, I've spent the last 2 years doing 18-hour days in the ER. I find these are pretty comfortable. You don't like them?
No.
Okay, fine. Well, I really enjoyed our time together here, but since you're obviously not a patient and I'm not getting anywhere, tell me where I can find a guy named Lou, drives an ambulance. I'll get out of your life.
I'm Lou.
Living in Grady with a 4-year-old daughter, Lou, as she is called, once left Grady and went to law school in New York City, where she worked as a bartender in Manhattan.
I can see you coming from half a mile away, Dr. Stone. You and your slick city ways. I suspect your version of romance is whatever will separate me from my panties.
What I'm talking about is dinner. You know, in public, wear a dress. Panties are optional.
Ben also meets the mayor's daughter, Nancy Lee, played by Bridget Fonda, who hopes to leave the town for a big city, while insurance salesman Hank Gordon, played by Woody Harrelson, hopes to woo Vailula.
You're in my chair. Boyfriend?
Friend.
Need any life insurance?
What?
You should be vested in a term life program. Probably $250,000 to start. Come by my office, we could run a what if. Or are you too chicken?
Dr. Stone, I read somewhere that doctors have the highest suicide rate in any profession except for dentistry. Now, is that true?
I won't underwrite, Dennis. Nope. Never trust a man who put his hand in your mouth.
Well, I'd love to stay in here where this conversation's headed, but if you'll all excuse me.
There's something else I wanted to ask you. Do doctors know more about sex than normal people?
While taking care of patients, Ben misdiagnoses a young boy with acid reflux and diarrhea as having a heart condition.
Your son is turning blue because he has an abnormal mitral valve. It's causing a backflow of blood in his heart. We may have to operate. I'm going to send him to Athens General as soon as possible.
Dr. Hogue said you should give the boy a Coke.
What?
He says he's probably got a bellyache and that you should give him a Coca-Cola.
Listen, doctor, I got a boy here in cardiac crisis. You can't treat that with Coca-Cola or Bisquick. We're going to have to use real medicine this time. Now, I'm sending him to Athens General. You're his regular fucking doctor. You get your fat ass out of bed, get down here and go with him.
The soon-to-be retiring town doctor, Aurelius Hogue, played by Bernard Hughes, shows up and confronts Dr. Stone.
What the hell kind of snot-nosed puppy doctor are you anyway? Wake me out of a sound sleep? Scare these poor folks out of their skivvies?
Mitral valve regurg.
Ah.
Look, I've had a lot of experience with it in the ER, okay? I've even assisted in the surgery to correct. Now, God only knows how long he's had this, but I guess you overlooked it. Now, why don't you go and check his color?
Nurse Packer, get that crap off of the boy. Gene, you gave him the bismuth subnitrate, didn't you?
Well, at first we thought it was the
You gave him
skitters.
too much, as usual. Turned him 3 shades of blue.
Bismuth subnitrate?
Homegrown and acid. You hear a heart murmur?
No, it's hard to detect here, Detective.
You've been saddling your daddy's chaw. That'll be 65 cents. Well, nice work, Hollywood. You were just about to crack open the chest of a 6-year-old boy to cure a case of diarrhea.
Ben spends time with the townsfolk and continues to try and court Lou. During a walk in the woods after making house calls, Ben tells Lou that he actually comes from a small town in the Midwest.
Marionville, Indiana. Population 2,106. Home of the world's largest steam engine.
But you've been telling everybody that you're...
No. Everybody assumed I was a big city guy. Nobody asked. Anyway, I got out and I'm staying out.
Have you still got your whole family there?
Well, they talked about leaving, but my dad never quite. They lived there, they died there. For better or for worse. So when I left home, I just swore to myself I was never going back.
It's not the place, it's the person. Be careful what you wish for, Ben Stone. You might get it.
Shortly thereafter, Doc Hogue suffers a heart attack, with Ben saving him just in time.
Everybody out, let's go. Come on, visiting hour's over.
Oh, don't mind Doc Hollywood. He doesn't know what it means to be beloved. You come to clean the room, my bedpan's ripe. Oh, no, not Mattie's sweet potato pie.
You can razz me all you want, Doc. I saved your life last night. You know it, and I know it. Gotcha.
After Judge Evans grants Ben a pardon for the remainder of his sentence, he is free to leave for California. Having fallen in love with Vailula and with the town, Ben has to decide whether he should stay in Grady or head off to Hollywood. This film is based on the book What, Dead Again? By Neil B. Schulman about his time as a doctor in rural Georgia. Schulman worked at Grady Memorial Hospital in Atlanta, Georgia, hence the name of the town, Grady. He was an associate producer on the film. Though Doc Hollywood is set in South Carolina, it was filmed in Los Angeles and in a small town in Florida, Micanopy, Florida, a small town just south of Gainesville. The movie was shot between January and March of 1991. In his 2002 autobiography, Lucky Man, Michael J. Fox tells of how he woke up one morning during production on this film after a big night of drinking with Woody Harrelson, and he noticed a small but persistent tremor in his left little pinky finger. Shortly after, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease at age 29. The doctors told Michael J. Fox at the time that he had about 10 good years of working left. His ordeal with Parkinson's disease began on the set of Doc Hollywood. Julie Warner appears nude near the beginning of the film. This was very rare for a movie rated PG-13. Asked at the time about how she felt doing it, she said, quote, "The hardest thing about it was that I was freezing," end quote. She explained that her character represented earthiness and it wouldn't have been right for her to be in a Speedo. While at the restaurant in Los Angeles, Bridget Fonda's character Nancy Lee asks Woody Harrelson's character Hank, "Is that a star?"
Is that a star?
No, that's Ted Danson.
Ted Danson was Harrelson's co-star on the NBC television sitcom Cheers, which was the #1 highest rated show in America the year this movie came out. This line was revenge for an earlier prank when Ted Danson pantsed Woody Harrelson in front of an audience. Harrelson worked the line into the movie and then invited Ted Danson to the premiere, not telling him what was coming. Near the end of the film, in his hotel room in Los Angeles, Ben flips television channels and sees a scene from the 1946 film It's a Wonderful Life. That movie was also about a man stuck in a small town with big city dreams who eventually chooses love and stays in the small town. This movie began production in late October 1990, just over 3 months after the premiere of the CBS television series Northern Exposure, a series with a similar premise, a big city doctor forced to practice medicine in a rural town as part of the terms of his med school scholarship. Northern Exposure would air on CBS from 1990 to 1995. This movie was among many films of the very, very late 1980s and the early 1990s that were sort of that fish out of water story. City Slickers, 1991. Life Stinks, 1991. King Ralph, 1991. My Cousin Vinny, 1992. Straight Talk, 1992. And other films were a part of that trend. Arachnophobia. Jeff Daniels is a big city doctor who moves to a small California town and there are killer spiders. What year did that movie come out? 1990. It was really strange. Between 1990 and 1992, there were a slew of movies just like this, as well as television shows like Northern Exposure. The song featured at the start of the film is English rock singer Chesney Hawkes' hit, The One and Only, which would hit #1 in the UK and #10 on the US Billboard Hot 100 charts in November 1991. There have been serious discussions about the stunning similarities between the plot of this film and the plot of the 2006 Pixar animated film Cars. That movie tells the story of an arrogant race car voiced by Owen Wilson who is headed to California when he winds up stranded in a small town in Arizona. A town judge car, voiced by Paul Newman, then sentences him to community service, and he winds up learning to appreciate the values of the small town. The similarities did not go unnoticed by people who reviewed the movie. One person who reviewed it said, quote, "Cars rips off Doc Hollywood almost note for note," end quote. Released into theaters in August 1991, Doc Hollywood grossed a total of $54.8 million on a budget of $20 million, making it a substantial box office success. Many critics gave this movie high praise. Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert were really impressed.
They're very good together. And when I first heard the rough outline of this movie, I thought it was going to be some cheap comedy with silly medical jokes about big cities and small towns. But Doc Hollywood is better than that. There's some real sweetness and wit in this script by three people, Peter Seaman, Jeffrey Price, and Daniel Pine. Lots of the characters in this town of Grady are fleshed out in just a few minutes, and Michael J. Fox gives an absolutely winning, droll comic performance. I think he's really underrated as an actor. And Julie Warner, the newcomer, is equal to the fine part she's been given. I really liked Doc Hollywood.
I really liked it too. You know, there is an intangible aspect to some actors that is very important to a movie like this, and that is they've got to be likable. Michael Fox and Julie Warner here are really warm and sweet and funny and right together. The chemistry is there, and the movie, you're quite correct, is not like the trailer. I've seen the trailer, I guess, about a dozen times. I thought it was going to be some dumb comedy. This is a love story. It's a romance, and I realized how hungry I was for a movie like this as I was watching it.
My mother taped this movie along with the 1990 hit film Home Alone off of the Cinemax cable network. And we had it on VHS tape, and I first saw it when she was watching it when I was very, very young. I did the math once, and I believe I might have actually been about 3 years old. Maybe 4 years old when I first saw this film. In fact, this might be the first time I ever saw a naked woman in a movie. I believe that Doc Hollywood is one of the first movies that I ever saw in my entire life. There is something about this movie that just works really well, and the fact for me that this was one of the first films I ever saw in my life means that it'll always be special for me in that way. There are certain movies that when you talk to people around the water cooler, so to speak, they'll say, "Oh yeah, that's a good movie." And then there are times where people will say, "That is a really good movie." I have heard people say that Doc Hollywood is a really great movie. People younger than me. I agree. If Back to the Future is Michael J. Fox's gold standard film, Doc Hollywood might be his silver. As the decades passed after the release of this film, it took on high status as not only one of the best films of actor Michael J. Fox, not just as a cult classic, but sort of as a classic. The more I watch this movie and the older I get, the more I like it. The acting's fantastic. Out of the thousands of movies I've seen, if it wouldn't be in the top 10, I think it would be in the top 25 of my all-time personal favorites. And given how many films I've seen, that's saying something. It is a really, really good movie. I will give 10 out of 10 stars to the 1991 romantic comedy classic, Doc Hollywood.